With the ever-increasing data rates, the available fiber capacity very quickly is at its limits. Now, the most efficient way to maximize the fiber capacity is by using DWDM. However, there is also another technology that is very cost-effective and simple to use, where you can quickly double the capacity of your fiber without having to add additional WDM equipment. If you want to find out what that is and how it works, stick around and we'll check it out. What I'm talking about is BiDi transceivers. Now, normal transceivers have two fiber connections, whereas a BiDi transceiver only has one connection. That means that the normal transceiver uses one fiber for transmit and one fiber for receive, whereas the BiDi transceiver uses only that one fiber to send and transmit the signal at the same time. Now the question is, how does that work? Let me explain. Now what you see over here is a setup of two BiDi transceivers that are connected to each other over a fiber. And the important thing to know about BiDi transceivers is they actually have a WDM component, so an optical multiplexer built in. And what that optical multiplexer does is it is actually transparent only for one wavelength, and it reflects the remaining wavelengths. And let's start off with this transceiver here. This transceiver takes the electrical signal and converts it to an optical signal at a wavelength of 1270 nanometers. The filter that is built in here actually is transparent for those 1270 nanometers and reflects the 1330. In other words, the 1270 can pass through this WDM filter, goes over to this BiDi transceiver. However, this BiDi transceiver is the absolute inverse to this BiDi transceiver. In other words, it receives on the 1270, meaning that this filter is reflective for the 1270 nanometers and reflects it onto the optical receiver, which converts it to an electrical signal, whereas the transmit data is then emitted on a 1330 nanometer, which can pass through this filter, and on this side it is then reflected onto the optical receiver. In other words, it is important that you pair the BiDi transceivers correctly, because you can't have the same transceivers on either side of the link. In other words, you need to have the right combination of transmit and receive wavelengths on both sides so that it works. So, I hope you learned something today. If so, please leave a comment and see you in one of the next videos.